Welcome to the show. Today I am burning with excitement because I've managed to bring onto the show Mr. Simon Zutshi. And he is just incredible. And if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't be in property now, because we met maybe 11 years ago and he really encouraged me right at the beginning. But anyway, without further ado, Simon, welcome to the show.
Samuel, thank you very much for asking me. Long time, I guess.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming out. I mean,
my pleasure.
It's just amazing. And you're here in our offices.
Yep.
Do you like the offices?
Wonderful. Yeah, great.
Great. So why don't you give a tiny introduction? You might not need one, but who are you?
So I started investing in 1995. I started work at Cadbury's in Birmingham, at Birmingham University, and had no money at all because I've been in debt. So my very first house was I bought as a first-time buyer, and I was able to get a 95% mortgage. But what I had to do was borrow the 5% deposit on the cost. I didn't have any money. So my first deal was a no money down deal, interestingly. And I rented out some of the rooms in my house to friends who were still at university, and the rent they paid me covered the mortgage and the bill. So I kind of lived for free. So what that meant was I was able to save the salary from my job, and also I had a part-time business running student nightclub events in Birmingham, which is good fun business. So in 1998, I bought my second house, and I moved from my first one into my second one. And that's really when I became a proper student landlord in 1998, 20 years ago. And that's what kicked it all off. And I had that distinction at that point that if you buy a property in the right area at the right price and you rent it out, what happens is when you take off all the costs, the mortgage, insurance, the management, maintenance, and there's money left over, it's like owning your very own cash machine. And if you have enough of those cash machines, it kind of replaces your income. And so I was able to leave my full-time job at Cadbury's in 2001. By 2003, I'd completely replaced my former income on a passive basis. And then in 2003, I set up the Property Investors Network. And the reason I did that was because I started investing in myself, in personal development. I learned about the importance of environment, getting the right people around you. And I went online, and there was no kind of networking for investors. I don't know about you, Samuel, but I'm sure you will have made lots of mistakes. I've made lots of mistakes. And I thought, it's got to be smarter to learn from other people. So I set up the group really with the intention of kind of helping myself, really, to learn from other people and connecting and meeting more people and learning about resources. And then people started saying to me, Simon, how come you don't have to work? So I started teaching people in 2003.
And you're not old at this point. You're still relatively...
I was about 32.
So you're 32.
Given up work.
You're 32. You're not working.
No, that's right.
I know there's a lot more to the story.
Yeah, no worries.
But what possessed you to go and buy that first property? I know it was no money down, but how did that happen?
I think so. So I know what it was. None of my family have ever been in property, apart from their own homes. Okay, and when I was a student at Birmingham University, I remember vividly, so I lived in halls of residence, I did a 4-year course, halls for the first 2 years. Third year I moved out with some friends into Selly Oak, which is the main area around Birmingham University. And I remember walking around Selly Oak in the kind of the January, looking for houses as students do to move in for the July. And we found a great house, and I found the house, so I got to choose the room, and I choose the best room, obviously, because I found the house. That's the perk of taking action, right? So many people aren't prepared to take action. You've got to be an action taker if you want to be successful. And so I found the house, and then we had to go and meet the landlord at his house to sign the contracts. Now, he lived in Edgbaston, just around the corner from our halls of residence, on, you probably know this, a very posh road in Birmingham called Farquhar Road.
Yeah.
It's very, very posh. And so we walked down this road, and this massive, massive house, stopped at it, walked in, and you go in the big door, and as you walk in, on the left-hand side, there's like a library we went into, and a kind of, not quite as big as this room, but similar to this, but lined from floor to ceiling with books. And a big, big oak desk, and a big chair behind the desk, and 4 little chairs for us to sit on, right? You knew about negotiation. So we sat down and signed our contracts. And I remember saying to the guy at the time, I said, as a kind of cheeky 19-year-old, I said, excuse me, I hope you don't mind me asking, what do you do for a living? And he said, well, I used to be a solicitor. They're pretty well paid, right? But now I'm just a full-time landlord. Now, I don't think I knew what that actually meant at the time, but later in that academic year, he came round to the house a couple of times to sort out maintenance and stuff. And he was a full-time landlord, just looking after the properties. He'd had maintenance guys, but he'd come and manage it and check everything's going right. And I sat down with him a cup of tea and had a chat with him. And because I've always been entrepreneurial, I like making money. And he said that he had 100 properties in Selly Oak. Now that's probably worth about 35, maybe 40 million pounds now. And I kind of realised that what we were paying him was more than the cost of having the house. And he had all these properties and he made money, bought more. So I think a seed went into my head.
Yeah.
And then actually, when I came out of university, I was actually unemployed. I did a 4-year combined honours course in manufacturing, engineering, business studies, great degree from Birmingham University, a 2-1, came out, wasn't a good time to doing engineering. And if I'm honest, I probably didn't put enough effort into actually applying for a job because I was busy in my final year. So I came out and that was a real shell shock. You know, I'd expected to get a good job from a good degree. You know, I've come from a middle class family. My sisters are both working in big corporates. I assumed I was going to do that as well, but I just didn't put the effort in that I needed. So I came out, I was unemployed, and I remember I actually went on the dole for about 6 weeks. And then I got a telesales job just so I was employable. And I was living in my old student house in Tamworth Road in Selly Oak, and it wasn't great. And it was about the time they started the National Lottery. And I remember this vividly. And the reason I'm telling this is because this is really important about goal setting and visualization. And I thought, wow, what would I do if I won £1 million? And at the time I thought I'd buy, 20 houses, and I didn't think about mortgages. I thought I'd buy them cash and the rental income would be enough to live on for the rest of my life. So it's kind of a vision that I had from an early 20s, from a place of not having any money at all and being in debt. And I kind of thought, what would I do with that £1 million? I thought, oh, my landlord. And it just, how these bits of a jigsaw kind of fit together. Yeah. And I think that's what happened. So as soon as I got a job and as soon as I get a job offer, I bought a house and I rented out some rooms to my friends who were still at uni.
That's such a brilliant strategy. And 2003 now, so you've got a few houses.
Yes.
You're a bit lonely. You're a bit lonely. You don't have to work. People are saying, how are you not having to work? And what's this?
Because all my friends were still at work.
Yeah.
So what do I do during the day, right?
Yeah. So then you set up the Property Investors Network.
Yes.
Just really as an opportunity for people to be able to kind of come together.
Yeah. Absolutely,
brainstorm ideas.
Yeah.
Tell us what happened next, because I know now PIN is massive.
Well, yeah, you see, at the time, I was going to breakfast network meetings where, businesses go and you can connect to other people. And I met a great solicitor, mortgage broker, accountant, everything I needed for my property business. The problem is none of them actually had their own properties. So they didn't really understand. And you know what it's like, friends don't really get what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
So I wanted that environment. And then, what happened was people said to me, how come we don't have to work? So I started explaining what I had done and realized, actually, I love to teach. And what I loved, Samuel, was when I would share something really simple with someone, they'd go away, actually take action and come back a couple of nights later and say, oh, son, this is brilliant, it works, and I bought a house. And, then you could buy anything and it would have gone up in value. And, anybody could borrow money. It was really, really easy. And I got addicted, if you like, to the feeling of helping other people and the buzz I would get when people said, oh, thank you, Simon. Now, they'd done the work, but I'd been a little bit of a catalyst in their journey. So I started to teach people in 2003 what I'd done and how to. It was very simple, very basic stuff, nothing like the sophisticated stuff we do right now. And people would come from all over the country. They'd come to PIN, and I started PIN in London, I moved to Bristol and a few other locations. And I was running all those meetings. I had about 4 meetings.
Let me ask you a question. When you started PIN and you had these few little locations going on, you just started teaching, did you have any idea that come 15, 20 years, you'd still be doing it on a massive level?
No idea at all. I never thought there'd be, I didn't have the vision to have 50 meetings at first when I started it. As we grew it, I kind of thought, this would be good to have a national network.
Yes.
But that wasn't a vision at first.
Yeah.
Not at all.
So what happened then? How did you go from these few groups?
Well, what happened was I was running the groups myself, which was fine, but I was getting a bit tired doing it. And then I'd have people from all over the country who would come and do some training with us. I would say, well, can I set up a group where I live? And we said, well, yeah, okay. So if they'd done training and done well, because to be honest, it was a great way to introduce people to property, to give them massive support, for them to come and do some training. And we don't do a hard sell. We don't need to because we've got so many proof and track record of results. But people come in, meet people who've done our course. And we get lots of people who've done other people's training come to PIN as well. That's absolutely fine. Anyone's welcome. But even if you've done a course, you know what to do. Out there doing it is really hard. That's where you need support, and that's what we get from PIN. So these people who had done training with me started setting up smaller PINs, and it's not a franchise, it's more a partnership. We're working together. They want to give back and help. We now have 50 amazing people who host the meetings in the local areas and provide that support. And what they get out of it is they are the center of deal flow. They get people coming with money, people coming with deals, and they have to put a bit of time and effort in, but they kind of want to give back because they've all done so well. They want to help other people on their journey, and it's just this virtuous circle. And it's weird. Some people come and they think it's a bit like a cult, right? Because you don't really have that kind of positive, supportive environment in many places. You know, at work, people are kind of stabbing each other in the back, and it's a very unusual environment.
Yeah, it is. And we met first at Property Investors Network.
We did, yes.
And I think that must have been 2007, 2008 kind of time, just before the recession.
I think it was, just around then. It must have been end of 2007, I think.
I think it was.
Yeah.
And I remember you, I tell the story at the crash courses that I go to, because I remember coming along feeling really nervous.
Yeah,
and out of
were you
place.
about 17 at the time?
17,
yeah.
Teenager, just bought a suit that doesn't fit me properly from Asda.
Yeah.
And
still wearing the same ones. Sorry.
And thanks. And we met, and you spoke, and I thought, wow. And it was that evening really when I thought, you know what? I think I can do this.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I just want to interrupt here, Sam, to say, because, you are a great speaker, and I'm really pleased that not only being successful in property, you've kind of followed my footsteps, and you're helping and you're inspiring other people. And that's one of the great things about it. If I'm giving a bit of self-love here, really, about a bit of mutual love. Sorry.
After the suit knock, that's fine.
No, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, you need to sort the suits out. But apart from that, but seriously, I think you will understand this. What an amazing feeling that we get when we know we are inspiring other people. Because in a world that is so cynical and skeptical, people don't get it. Yeah. They're conditioned. They have to do a job, and they're gonna retire at 67 or 70. They're probably gonna die very soon after that. Yeah. There's another way, and I think we can kind of almost shine a light on it and say, hey, look, and it's not easy. You've got to put time and effort in, but the time and effort you put in is going to be so rewarding. If we can inspire people to take action, that's an incredibly rewarding thing. And you know that because you do that. And I love the way you speak, and you're full of passion, and you've spoken lots of PIN meetings in the past because you help inspire people. So, congratulations to you as well.
Thanks, Simon. I really appreciate that. And, I think it's great to honour people who've helped you along the way. You've seriously helped me along the way. I remember I shared the story at some of the crash courses, but after going to the PIN meeting, I remember going home, and at some point the cold reality hit me that I've got no money. I'm too young to even get a mortgage. If I did have money, basically nothing's really for me. And I remember thinking, this is stupid. Maybe I shouldn't have quit my, decided to quit my job. Maybe this is a pipe dream. And our link was magic, right?
Yes.
Because you used to also be a magician.
Yes.
And my dad's a magician.
Yes.
And I was being forced down the route of working for, trading my time for money.
Yeah.
Very low pay, working as an entertainer.
Yeah.
And I don't remember exactly what happened, but we had a 45-minute phone conversation.
We did.
And
I remember that conversation.
What do you remember about the conversation?
I remember telling you because I knew your dad. Your dad had done some training with us. We taught him how to buy properties.
You knew my stepdad, actually.
Yeah, so he's so sorry, your stepdad.
My dad was the magician.
Oh, sorry. Right. So I knew Tim, your stepdad. Beg your pardon. Okay. And he had done some training. He did, I think, one of the very early mastermind programs where we would teach.
It was around about the same kind of time.
It was, where we were teaching people how to buy property with none of their own money because a creative mortgage product was in the market at the time.
Yeah.
And I remember, for some reason, we had that conversation. I don't know how it came about. We had the conversation, and I related to it because at your age, when I was at school, I was doing magic shows. Yeah. I was doing kids' parties. I was doing after dinner cabaret, and it was good fun. And at that age, it was fairly good income as well. That was great. Yeah. But I said to you, Samuel, why are you doing that? You're trading your time for money. And full credit to you, you got what I was saying. Yeah. Because a lot of people, even adults, don't get that message. The book I'd obviously recommend that helps explain that is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Yeah. Which I think most people probably read. If they haven't, they should absolutely read it. But it doesn't teach anything about property really, but it teaches about mindset and assets and liabilities and debts and things. So it's a great book to read. But you got it at a young age. And I said, look, why are you doing that? You want to buy a property that then gives you income ongoing. Yeah. And I think you took what your stepdad was doing and what I showed you. And didn't you buy your first property on your 18th birthday or something?
Just before my 18th birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think...
using the no money down strategy.
Yeah. Not in my name.
No.
But using that strategy, and that was in Bourneville, which is also where you...
Yeah, exactly where I got my first HMOs as well.
Yeah, but I think the big thing for me on that conversation was was I was thinking, well, I'm 17, I haven't got any money or anything, but if Simon thinks I can do it, and if he's successful and he's done it, and if he thinks I can, well then I think I can. You know, so it was just that belief, I think.
You know what? I think belief is one of the most important things.
Yeah.
And self-doubt is what stops a lot of people actually achieving their dreams. And, you know, if we can help inspire people.
Yeah, and I say that.
And give them that belief.
You believed in me. Yeah. I now believe in other people.
Absolutely.
I think if we all believed in one another.
Yeah. I believe anyone can do it. Anyone can become successful in property, but they've got to want to do it. And they've got to have a reason why. And they've got to be prepared to put the effort. Unfortunately, there are too many people who want to get rich quick, who are not prepared to do anything.
They go on a training program as if it's like a lottery ticket or something.
Exactly.
Which
thinking,
we know.
Make me rich, make me rich.
Yeah.
Well, it's not going to happen, is it?
No. Someone said to me, you know, how long will it take you to make me financially free? I said, it wouldn't happen.
Yeah,
I can give you the tools.
Yeah, but you've got to do it yourself.
Exactly.
Accepting personal responsibility for anything you do in your life is critical to your success.
Tell us what happened next then. So 2007, 2008, you're running these networks, you've got a training company, you're aggressively building your own property portfolio, you're financially free.
Yeah.
What's happened since then? What about what do you do now?
So I still teach because I love teaching. And we still run our mastermind program, and the investment to do masterminds gone up significantly because we put coaching in and mentoring, all things that weren't there in the early days when your stepdad did it. And it's interesting. Sometimes you get people very cynical say, oh, well, if you're so good at property, why are you teaching people how to do it? Why don't you just do property? And here's the thing that people need to understand. When you make a lot of money, it's not about the money. When you make a lot of money, you have choice and freedom to do what you want to do. And if I had to choose property or teaching people, I would always choose teaching people. Property is great. I still invest in property because I think it's important to keep up to date because the market's constantly changing. That's why I keep on updating my book, because the market's changing. And there are some great opportunities out there, so why wouldn't I do it? But if I had to choose, it would be training, because that's what I'm passionate about. I love seeing people change and, you know, inspiring a 17-year-old kid who now goes and inspires other people. What's the ripple effect that I can have on life? I can impact far more people than just buying property. And I think we need to, you know, fulfill your purpose about what are you really here for. And I don't know if I'm doing what my purpose is, but I think I'm as close to it as I can be at the moment till I work out what else I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's the thing. Yes, property is great, but I believe most people who invest in property isn't because they want the property or even the income. It's what the income allows them to do.
Yeah.
Because when you've got the income coming in, it frees up your time. You can choose what you want to do. And I choose to teach people. And interestingly, someone said, well, why don't you do it for free? Well, I have done a lot of training and I do a lot of stuff for free, but I absolutely know when something's for free, unfortunately, most people won't value it. And you know what, Simon, I'm sure you've seen, the more we charge, the better results my students get because they've got skin in the game and they have to make it work because they've invested good money.
Yeah.
So I generally don't do free events because although some people will get it and run for it, unfortunately, most people, I know you give such invaluable information on your crash course. Some people just don't take it and do anything with it because it's free. They don't value it.
That's so true. And I remember thinking when I started out in property, I remember thinking, I wonder why Simon teaches. You know, and I was one of those people that used to kind of think, well, if you make that much money in property, I didn't get it. Yeah. But now I really do get it because I think, as you say, when you're financially free, what next?
Exactly.
And
it's people who are stuck in a job who don't have enough money who think like that. They think it's all about money. It's not about money. Yeah. Once you've got money, you then have freedom.
I mean, I'll take the money.
Don't get me wrong. You know, I'm not a particularly flash person. I don't drive fast cars or anything, but you know, I like lots of holidays. I like lifestyle experience. Yeah. And I think anyone who says money is wrong has not given enough of it away. Yeah.
Very true. Very true. Tell us a little bit about you know, right now we're at the back end of 2018.
Yes.
There's a lot of uncertainty going around. Section 24 is coming in. Yeah. Brexit, who the heck knows what's going on with that at the moment. Yeah. But people are very scared.
They are very scared.
People are selling their portfolios. Yes. There's just a lot of confusion going on.
Yeah.
Do you think now is a good time or a bad time to invest in property?
Okay, that's an excellent question. So, it's a good time, but there are a couple of conditions. One is if you know what you're doing. Okay? I'm going to make a little prediction here. And I think this is not wildly outrageous what I'm about to say. I believe we're going to see a dip in property prices in 2019. We're already seeing it back into 2018, and it may well continue in 2020. I don't think we're going to see a crash, but I might be wrong, okay? But guess what? The general perception is there could be a massive crash if there's no deal on the 29th of March when the UK is supposed to leave Europe, the European Union, okay? And it's interesting, the governor of the Bank of England, Mark Carney, made a presentation, a speech about what could happen if there's no deal. And he said it could be an economic crisis like 2008. So that's what he said. He was actually misquoted in many of the national newspapers who said, house prices could crash 35%. Now in 2008, the worst case scenario was a 35% crash. Place like Northern Ireland, who'd shot up massively in the mid-2000s, way too much, and then they crashed down. Most places in the UK crashed about 20 to 25%. But what that was caused by was because the banks had realised they had all this toxic debt, and they'd made loans to people they were never going to get the money back from. You know, you may remember this in 2006, 2007, you could get buy-to-let mortgages up to 90% loan to value. You could get home mortgages for 125% of the purchase price. You know, property's worth 200,000. You could get a 250,000 pound mortgage, 200 to buy the house, 50,000 to go on holiday, buy a car, do whatever you want to do. So a lot of people were putting themselves into negative debt. And the banks realized there was irresponsible lending and irresponsible borrowing. So what happened was 2008, it was actually really hard to borrow money to buy. So the people who wanted to buy, people couldn't sell, prices crashed down. So those circumstances are not the same. The toxic debt doesn't exist, well, not to the same extent it used to. Banks have not lent such high loan to value. There's more equity in there. So the banks could withstand a drop of 35% in property prices and still be okay. He wasn't saying that was going to happen, and I don't think that would happen. But what I think, what you think, what people watching this doesn't really matter. It's all about the general public perception. So what that means is, if the general public, people trying to sell properties, think prices could crash as much as 35%, this next 6 months from right now until the end of March, and it depends on when people are watching this video, but there is an unprecedented opportunity. I believe an opportunity of a lifetime, if you know what you're doing, to get out there and get some really good deals. Now, if you are buying now, you have to accept that you might buy now and it could be worth a little bit less in 6 months' time. So if you are buying to do up and sell on flipping property, that would not be a good strategy if prices are going to come down. But if you're looking to hold for long term, and if you follow my 5 golden rules that I talk about in my book, Property Magic, well, you always buy in an area of strong rental demand, rule number 2. You always buy for positive cash flow, so it gives you profit every month. And rule number 4, you always buy for long term. So if you follow those rules and you're buying for long term and it's making cash flow and you can easily rent it out, it doesn't matter if prices are slightly lower than where you bought it, because over the long term in the UK, property prices go up because we live on an island with a limited supply of accommodation and an increasing population. So over long term, property prices go up. Even if when the UK come out of Brexit, if they pull up the drawbridge and flood the tunnel and don't let anyone else into the UK, we will still have an increasing population because of increasing birth rates and increasing life expectancy. We're living longer. So with the population going up and a limited supply of space, long-term rents and prices should go up. And also, if all these landlords, and not everyone, but a lot of landlords who maybe are thinking about retiring, they might be investing for 10, 15 years, and they're thinking, you know what, because of Section 24, which is where investors get taxed in a different way now, and from April 2017, when it first came in, phased over 4 years, by 2020, if you own property in your own name and you're a high rate taxpayer, you will be paying a lot more tax on your property portfolio, such that if you've got high mortgages and also if interest rates go up, you might have properties that don't actually make you any money, but on paper they make a profit, which means you have to reach into your pocket, take some money to pay the tax man each year. That is not a good asset to hold. So I think we're going to see a lot of investors sell their property. That's why a lot of it's going to come onto the market. That's why prices will dip. By the way, if they're not renting their property, there's less rental property available. So those of us who are in the market still should see rents go up. So it's amazing how all these factors kind of work together to create this unique opportunity. But I really do think now is always a good time to invest, as long as you're doing. But right now is just an opportunity, probably of a lifetime.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think you're absolutely right. And I think that, I mean, with the new tax changes, one of the things that I'm seeing is, it's not easy to switch your individual properties over to a limited company.
That's correct.
So what's happening is people are either taking the hit, like me, properties that I own as an individual. I've worked out it's going to cost me about 30, 40 quid a month on average per property because they're just little cheap houses. So that's not really a biggie. The more expensive properties, or if people are really burned, then they're gonna sell up. Or they're going to put their rent up. So what's going to happen, and both of those things mean opportunity for us.
Absolutely.
So, and I think rent, certainly in the Midlands, have gone up quite a lot. Now, the properties that I'm buying now, I'm buying through a company, so the tax changes don't even apply.
Moving forward, I'm doing the same thing.
So I'm buying in a company, so the tax changes don't apply, but I'll still benefit from the rent increase.
Exactly. And you'll also benefit from more landlords looking to sell who might be panicking because of Brexit, and you'll be able to pay less over the next 6 months than you did if you bought a couple of months ago.
Exactly. I think wherever
so it's an opportunity, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think wherever there's a rule change, there's always something else. There's always, like for instance, when they changed the tax, announced they're bringing in Section 24, very, very quickly, they changed the rules on buying a company, didn't they? So they said, they made it very easy to set up a company and buy a house through it immediately. So I think it's a massive opportunity. And
it's interesting, you know what, we are always going to see change. As landlords, we need to accept that and embrace it. And you get some people who don't have the right mindset, who moan. And look, don't get me wrong, Section 24 is not a good thing for landlords. And I'm very surprised by a Conservative government bringing something like that in. And I think it's because they don't really want individuals to have properties. They want to make it corporates because they think they can legislate easier, can collect tax easier if it's a corporate rather than individual. So there's a reason they're doing it, okay? But things happen, and we always need to look for the silver lining. And it's about having the right positive mindset, saying there's always a way.
Do you think
and while everyone else is panicking, if you know what you're doing, you can make a real opportunity.
Do you think there's a chance they might abolish Section 24?
Very possibly. So they introduced it in Ireland, I think about 9-10 years ago, and then, or maybe slightly even longer, and then they abolished it after about 9 years. So that could happen. They could realise that actually, because, there could be a real issue. If there's not enough incentive for private landlords to have properties and people start selling up, rents are going to go up and affordability is going to be a problem. And actually, there could be a real issue that there's just not enough accommodation. So what's going to happen? Guess what? The councils are going to have more people they've got to supply accommodation for. They don't have enough housing. There could be some real issues that the government has not thought through here. And it takes time for those to filter through.
Which would massively increase rents.
It would massively increase rents, So, there were some long-term implications. And I think what happened, the Chancellor at the time went into his local tax office and saw that some property investor was earning hundreds of thousands of pounds a year and not paying any tax. Because as we know, there's some very clever things you can do legitimately using the rules to minimise your tax. And, if you want to be wealthy, there's three things you need to learn how to do. One is you've got to learn how to make money. And that's great, but most people stop there. Second thing is you've got to learn how to keep your money. And a lot of that is understanding how taxation works and make the most of the laws to your advantage, because it's the rich people make tax laws, not the poor people. And then the third thing is you need to know how to grow your money. Now, actually, property can do all of those for you. You can make money from it, you can minimise your taxes in certain ways, and you can grow it. So that's why property is such a great investment vehicle. But, you've got to understand that most people have a very limited mindset. And when a change comes along, they don't like change. And they have to adapt that. And if we want to be professional investors, we just need to adapt and get on and find the opportunity, which is always there.
I usually say when there's a scary news report about property or something, your instant reaction should be to rub your hands together.
Exactly,
Because there's always money to be made when that happens.
Yeah, and that's why I don't think you should read the news or listen to the news on the radio or read the paper, watch TV, because it's always negative. If you want to be a successful person, don't fill your head with all that negativity. You should listen to audio books of successful people or property books or listen to audio from property courses, whatever. Listen to all of that stuff to put positivity into your head, to reinforce that, yes, you can do this, and make sure you're not like the average person. Yeah, brilliant. Let me ask you a couple of questions. Firstly, some people watching this are going to be people that have got money and they're looking to dump that into property and invest that. Yes. What would you do right now if you had, say, 100 grand in the bank,
you're wanting to invest it. Where would you put that, and what would you do with that money?
Okay, well, it's very easy for me, given what I know now,
Yeah.
but I'd say the most important thing is make sure you educate yourself, because any idiot can buy a property, and many idiots do buy property, okay? So I would want to make sure I know what is a good deal, first of all. Then I'd want to find an area, and personally, if I was doing that, and I'd train myself, I'd probably want to invest in something like HMOs, houses of multiple occupation.
Yeah.
I feel that in many areas there is an oversupply of HMOs, but actually most HMOs are not very good condition. Our students have really high-end HMOs. They get much higher rent than most people.
Yeah.
There's not a shortage of good tenants who want to live in those properties. So don't compete on price HMOs. It's a bad thing to do, okay? And they produce really good cash flow. And if there is an economic turndown, by the way, people can't afford to live on their own in an apartment anymore, going into an HMO shared house is actually a more cost-effective thing to do.
Absolutely.
So actually, I think it's future-proofed. And also, in addition to that, HMOs are a highly regulated market. They changed all the regulations in beginning of October 2018, and a lot of people panicking about that. But again, you just got to adapt and move on. But there's going to be no major changes, because they're already highly regulated. Whereas, I mean, service accommodation is a very popular strategy. I think it's got a few challenges with leases and things in apartments sometimes, but it's a great strategy. My one concern with that strategy is it is completely unregulated, and it's probably the most likely thing that could become highly regulated, and some people who've built a whole business around that could have the whole business wiped out.
Yeah.
So I think it's always good to diversify and put your money in different things, but my money would still be going into HMOs.
Okay, really interesting. What about if you're watching this video and you haven't got any money at all? I know you're someone who personally has bought properties with no money.
Absolutely.
Someone that also preaches that and has seen many people do that. Me too.
Yes.
What would you say to someone that didn't have any money?
Okay, well, it's always easier if you have money, obviously. But what you need to understand is if you don't have money, the very best thing you can do is get good at finding great deals.
Yes.
Because there are plenty of people who have got money and don't have the time, the knowledge, or even the inclination or desire to find property themselves. So what you could do is you could actually find deals and sell them to other people. Package deals was one way of doing it. The problem is most people who come in, they think, oh, I've not got a lot of money, I'll package deals. But they waste so much of their time because what they've got are not deals, because they haven't educated themselves to work out what makes a good deal. They don't know how to package it right. So that's the first thing, sell deals. The other thing is you could also, instead of selling those deals, get other people who want to come in as a joint venture. So you might find a deal, do all the work, someone has got the money, they don't want to get involved, they put the cash in, you have some sort of split of the cash flow and the future equity growth. So that's a great strategy. Better than that, I think, is if you get private loans from people, and that's where instead of getting a share of the equity, they get just a guaranteed fixed return. And you know, sometimes it's easier, well, I'll give you half the profits. It might be easier to get that than get an interest rate. So a way of building your credibility by getting loans is to do something like rent to rent. So rent to rent is where you find maybe a landlord, they've got a property, maybe they're a distant landlord, maybe they've had some challenges and they're just fed up or they're retiring. You can take their property on, you can rent it out, and very, very quickly, you rent it out in a different way to them. So it might be a single let that you could do a serviced accommodation, or it might be a larger house you can do as an HMO, or it might be already an HMO that they're struggling to let for some reason. And if you can fix that problem, take it on, and you get the margin between what you pay the landlord and what you pay, or what the tenants pay you. And so that's a great way of making money on a property you don't even own. One step better than a rent to rent is a purchase lease option, which is one of my favorite strategies, where you get to control the property, you get the benefit of cash flow, and you have the right to buy the property in the future at a price you fix today. So you get cash flow and potential equity growth from a property without a mortgage, without a big deposit. It all comes down to education.
And are these strategies, are they just, sound good in theory, or are these real things that people are doing now?
These are real things we've got people doing right now. We've got so much evidence. We've got people doing them in the market. People say, oh, well, that doesn't work where I live. Well, that's rubbish. You know, I got people doing options. We got a lady who just finished our mastermind program. She lives in London. She's buying in London. She's got an option on 3 apartments in Docklands. She used service accommodation. It's just next to Excel, the conference centre, year-round business. It's just over £1 million of property. she would have had to put 250, 300,000 in to actually buy those. But she has put some money in. She couldn't do it, no money down. But she's getting £55,000 profit after all expenses a year.
That's incredible.
From that, in London. So these strategies work everywhere. Some are better in certain areas.
I mean, people will always, you can either make excuses or you can make money, right?
There's a great saying by Henry Ford.
Yeah.
He said, if you believe you can or believe you can't, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And if you don't think there are great deals in your area, guess what? You're absolutely right. If you don't think there are options in your area, you're absolutely right. You'll never do them.
Yeah. Someone said to me, "Oh, no money down deals aren't possible." And I said, "You're absolutely right. They're not possible for you."
Yeah, that's right.
And
people don't like that, do they?
No.
But yeah, there's no point arguing with idiots. You
No.
just make two idiots.
Yeah.
You might as well agree with them. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're never going to find them.
What would be your, give me some advice that you don't usually share, something that people probably haven't heard before that maybe follow you?
I pretty much tell everyone what to do. I make it dead simple. I said, simple things, you just go and do this stuff.
Yeah. Just think of something, a little bit background, sort of some inside knowledge, some new strategy, new tip, something new.
Well, I mean,
Sorry to put you on the spot.
talk about hot off the press is the opportunity right now because of Brexit and the uncertainty.
Yeah.
One of my clients, when they had the referendum in 2016, the market, particularly in London, went very, very soft. A lot of people were really worried because they didn't know what's going to happen, okay? And one of my clients who's very, very wealthy, she was looking to buy properties in London and she found a property in a square that she really, really likes. And she wanted to live there herself. It was on the market for £7 million. Okay, so she's a very wealthy lady. She's buying cash. She sold an IT business. And using what we taught her and using the fact that the seller was really worried about what's going to happen, she was able to buy for cash 3 weeks before Brexit and got 21% discount in prime London, saved £1.5 million. Bought it for £5.5 million instead of £7.5 million.
Wow.
Okay, it's about timing.
Yeah.
And timing is right now. And a tip I will give you, I'm sure you know this, is what's called the speed of implementation. Successful people, we hear something, we then go and apply it straight away.
Yes.
Now, I'm not saying you should do everything because you'll hear some things that maybe don't necessarily work. You've got to find the strategy that works for you based on your time, your resources, etc. But the really important thing is that when you learn something, don't think about it. The strategy that I taught you back in 2007, that helped you buy that first property with none of your own money. By mid-2008, you couldn't do that strategy anymore.
Correct.
Because the mortgage market changed. So if you'd sat around thinking, I'm just 17, I can't buy property, or this doesn't work, or I'll do it when I'm older, guess what? You wouldn't have been able to do it. But only because you took action at the time, and we inspired you, and I believed in you, and you believed in yourself, you went and did it, you got the results because you took action.
Yeah, that's so true. I love
important.
that speed of implementation. We've just had one of our students who 2 days after a rent to serviced accommodation event went and secured a deal, and it's like 2 days.
Exactly, but that's what they should do. What happens is people get the manual, they write the notes, they put it on the shelf, and I'll do that next month. No. Do it straight away.
Yeah.
Clear a time in your diary. So here's another tip for you. You might have a big action list of all the things you need to do, which is great. You've got to work out what to do and prioritize them. A lot of people tick off the easiest thing first. Do the most important thing first, but also schedule time in your diary to actually get things done. And write each day, what am I going to do when I have this time? And that's where you use your prioritized list, because otherwise you'll never get around to it.
Yeah, that's so true. Simon, tell us a little bit about your book, because I know you've written a book. And the annoying thing is my book's property bestseller.
Yes.
But it keeps getting beaten by your book.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Have you seen my book beat your book as well?
Your book, it's a little, someone's ahead of me. We are jostling,
Yeah,
generally.
we do, I think you're number one at the moment, so congrats.
Today I am, yes.
Yeah.
I'd rather someone like you who I'd help rather than someone I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. And I'd rather someone like you than some idiot as well.
What was the question again? Sorry.
The question was, tell me why your book is so good, because it sometimes beats my book.
Right, okay, yeah. So my book is so good for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
First of all...
It's thicker than mine.
It's a 6th edition.
Yeah, wow.
Okay?
Yeah.
So I believe it's read... Now, I haven't read your whole book, I must admit. I've part read it, okay?
It's very long, I understand.
Okay. So I've not read it all. But I don't know if it's at all dated, because I give some very specific information in here. So when I first did it, for example, chapter 2 was all about, how do you use Mortgage Express, step by step, exactly what do you do to buy a property using none of your own money? I published it in February 2008. I wrote it back in 2007. By May 2008, Mortgage Express stopped doing that product. So chapter 2 was obsolete. Now the rest of the book was still valid about how do you find motivated sellers, how do you use other people's money, but it's obsolete. So I then thought, oh, I've got to do it. So I brought out another edition. And every time, I'm now reluctant to bring out a new edition because every time I bring something out, something changes. So the last edition, number 5, was in July 2015. 2 weeks later, the government announced the plans for Section 24, and I think, oh God, it's all changed. So I waited a little bit.
That's brilliant, though, that you keep updating it. And I think some people...
6th edition.
Like, there's some books... That's why Robert Kiyosaki's so clever, because Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you don't need to change it. But,
no, exactly.
But with your book, I mean, some people call my book, and I think yours is similar, almost like the follow-on from Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Absolutely.
You read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you have your mindset changed, you realise about passive income, all the things you can do.
Yes.
But our books are kind of like the ABC.
Yeah, Rich Dad, Poor Dad doesn't really teach you much about it. It changes your thinking and then lines you up to be ready
to
read your book or my book.
He doesn't need to keep changing it.
No, exactly.
But we do.
Yeah, because we're specific about what's happening in the market and what you need to do. HMO regulations and things change, etc. Yeah. So I think my book does so well for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's updated, which is really important. Secondly, it's actually very simple.
Yeah.
I try it when I teach, and I know you do this as well, Simon. I try and make things really simple so people can actually follow it. There are some people who teach who like to make things complicated to make themselves look clever.
Yeah.
Look, property is actually straightforward. I don't think it's easy, but it's straightforward. It's step by step by step. And I try and break it down so that people can get it. The other thing I do in the book, you can't teach everything in a book. That's why we run courses, right? But I like to inspire people and give them the belief and open their mind and expand their horizons about what's actually possible.
That's brilliant. Yeah.
And that's what I think people get about
Tony Robbins says that complexity is the thief of execution.
Absolutely.
And it's any idiot can make something complicated, but it takes a genius to make something complicated simple. Yeah. And I think one of the reasons I have loved going along to some of your seminars is because you make things very simple.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about how people would get in touch. I mean, I'd imagine the best way would be to go along to one of your Property Investors Network meetings.
Yeah, so we've got PIN meetings around the country. The website for that is pinmeeting.co.uk, and then go along. And actually, it's £20 to go along, but as we're here together, Samuel, why don't we give people an offer if they put in... we have lots of voucher codes.
S-Leeds.
S-Leeds. So S-Leeds, we'll set up as a voucher code. So if someone wants to come along, is it right? Someone wants to come along, they can come to their first meeting as your guest, completely free of charge for watching this video.
There we go.
Just to check it out and see if they like it.
And I'll just say, I mean, the PIN meetings are brilliant. I mean,
thank you.
I used to go religiously a couple times a month for years, and that was a real support to me. And then I started speaking at them.
You spoke at lots of meetings.
I've probably spoken at maybe 20.
Yeah.
Haven't done that for a while now, but they're a brilliant place to be. And it's been awesome having you on the show.
Thank you.
I'm really
People
grateful.
can also connect with me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, cool.
My surname's Zutshi, Z-U-T-S-H-I. And go and buy the book, obviously. It's available on audio as well, because a lot of people prefer to listen. So we just put out the 6th edition on Audible. And, come and connect. Great.
Let me ask you one more question. Are you going to be watching my Financial Freedom Challenge?
I am. We spoke about that earlier, Samuel, and I think that's really good, because you're right. A lot of people think, I can't invest in, but I've got no money, and they're missing the point that, as I said, if you find good deals, you will find money. And we were talking, I think you made it I'll be really honest here, I think you made it really hard for yourself. Some of the rules you set, I think you can't use your name, you can't have any help from your team. So I think you have set yourself, it is a genuine challenge. And I'm sure that with enough time, so let's say someone was doing a job to keep them going, but they had no extra money. With enough time, they could do it. You've made it really hard because you're giving yourself a short amount of time. So you and I know with persistence, anybody can get that if they're doing the right things. Yeah. But I think particularly because you've got a time limit on it, I will look with interest. And
you know, because we've spoke off camera, I'm genuinely scared about the challenge.
I know,
because it's real as real.
But that's great. It is real, and it's a genuine challenge, and I applaud you. And I probably wouldn't do it. So well done for
Simon,
you doing it.
Thanks so much. See you soon.
Thank you, Samuel.
Cheers. Thank you so much for watching. If you benefited from that video, please do share it with your family and friends. For more videos like it, you can watch right here. And if you'd like to spend 2 days with me at the Property Investors Crash Course, watch this video, see what happens. But whatever you do, don't forget to subscribe right here, and I'll see you next time.